In this video, we are going to solve the problem 344 from the LeetCode reverse string. So let's read our task first. Write a function that reverses string. The input string is given as an array of characters, and you must do this by modifying the input array in place with O1 extra memory. So what it means? It means that we can't use extra container to store our reverse string. We need to do all modifications in place. And here you can also see our example, hello reverses string and reverses string for Hannah, and also our constraints. So how can we do these modifications, reversing string in place without additional container? I'm going to explain you solution first and write it in the pseudocode, and then also I'm going to show you several examples in different languages. So if you use for example Java or other languages I don't use, you can also write your solution and add it to the comment section. So what we have here according to our task, let's say we have string hello and we need to reverse it on place without additional container. So what exactly will happen when we reverse our string? In reverse string, the first element will be the last element and the last element will be the first element. Then the second element will be the second from the end element, and element second from the end will be the second element. So it's a good idea to use loop here, and in each loop iteration we are going to switch corresponding elements. We can use here both while and for loop. I'm going to give you two examples in the pseudocode. First example is how to use while loop to switch characters in our string, and second example how to use for loop. So you can choose solution you prefer. So if you decided to use the while loop, first you need to create two pointers. First pointer, let's name it left, will point to the start of our string, to the first element of our string, and second pointer right will point to the end of our string. And in the while loop we are going to swap our elements and shift our pointers while left pointer is smaller than the right pointer. When they will be equal or left pointer will be more than right pointer, it means that we swapped all elements. And how will we swap our element? If I immediately assign the value of the right element to the left element, in this case I'm going to lose the value inside of the left element, because if I do it like this I'm going to have the same value in the left and right element. To avoid this situation I need to create temporary variable, and this temporary variable will store the value of the first of my left element, and then after I assigned value of the right element to the left element, I can assign to our right element the value that is stored in the temporary variable. And after this I'm going to shift our left pointer. So in the first iteration of our loop, left pointer is pointing the first element of the string. Now I want it to point the second element of our string, and the same I'm going to do with the right pointer. Now I want my right pointer point not to the end of the string, but to the second element from the end. Okay, that's solution for the while loop. Now let's create solution for the for loop. You may notice that actually here the left and right pointer do the same trace. The left pointer trace the first half of the string, and right pointer trace the second part of the string. So actually I can use for loop tracing only half of the string. For this purpose let's create the variable size, and size will be equal size of our string container. And in the for loop I need to use one more variable I, our tracing variable, and I will change from 0 to size divided by 2. And once again in the for loop I will do the same swapping operation. So I'm going to create a temporary variable to store the element as I, our first element 0, 1, 2, 3, and after I store this element I can assign to our first element the corresponding last element, so it will be s with the number size minus I minus 1, and to this corresponding last element s size minus I minus 1 I'm going to assign si. Okay, I hope now you understand the principle of our solution. You can see two variants of the pseudocode using while loop and using for loop. Now let's go back to the LeetCode and implement different solutions in C, C++, C# and Python. If you use different languages, once again, I'll be very happy if you add your solution in the comment section. Okay, let's start with our C solution. And since C is ideal language to use pointers, we're going to use actually 2 pointers and implement while loop. So first let's create our left pointer that will point to the beginning of our string, and then let's create our right pointer that will point to the end of the string. And to create this pointer we need to add to the pointer s size minus 1, and then we are going to create our while loop, and until left is smaller than right we are going to swap elements of our string. So create temporary variable. A temporary variable will store our right pointer. Then I'm going to assign left pointer to the right pointer, and finally I'm going to assign our temporary variable to our left pointer. Now I need to increase my left pointer, move my left pointer to the right, and decrease my right pointer. And actually I can do it using postfix increment and decrement instead of writing 2 additional string of the code. So right minus minus and left plus plus. Okay, now we have our solution. Let's submit it and see the result. And you can see that my result is actually accepted. The runtime is 45 milliseconds. That beats 68% of users with C and 24% of users with C regarding memory usage. And actually, you know, sometimes I have problems with the LeetCode. Like you can see here on non-network error, or sometimes it's thinking a lot about something, so I need to submit results several times, and sometimes I have different estimations. For example, you can see I try to submit my code several times, and from 6th or 5th attempt I have now results that runtime of my program beats 99% of the users. Now let's move to the C#, and in C# as an input we are using array of chars. So I'm going to implement actually the same solution. I'm going to create the left pointer equal to 0, and I'm going to create the right pointer. Right pointer will be equal to the length of our array minus 1. And once again I'm going to use while loop, and while left number, our left pointer, is smaller than right, we are going to swap our elements just like we did in the C code. We need to declare our temporary variable and assign it to the left element, and then we can assign the value of the right element to our left element, and vice versa, as right is equal to the temporary variable. And now I need to increase left pointer. So the next pair I'm going to swap is the second one, and second one from the end. So I'm going to increase left element and decrease right element here using postfix. Now let's try to submit our solution and see the result. And actually I made here a typo in the word length, so after I fixed it and submitted my result, you can see that now it's accepted and it beats 90% of users with C# in terms of memory, but we have only 30% of user beats in the runtime. And once again, this numbers is very approximate. Sometimes there are some lags, so if you try to submit your result several times, you can see I can get very different results. Sometimes they are bigger and smaller. So now let's move on to the C++. And in C++, you can see we are going to work with vector. So I actually want to implement both while and for loop solution. And actually I'm going to do a small trick. I'm going to copy my C# solution and change it a little bit so it will be suitable for our C++ solution. So once again, you can see I created the left pointer, it will be equal to 0, and the right will be equal to the size of our vector -1. And while left pointer is smaller than right pointer, we need to use temporary variable to store our left element of our vector. Then we assign right element to the left element and increase our left pointer by 1. And on the next step, I assign our temporary variable to our right pointer and I decrease right pointer by 1. Let's submit this solution, check that everything is okay, and you can see that runtime is beats 65% of users with C++. So for now we used while loop solution for C#, and C++. So let's try for C++ also write the for loop solution. So to do this, I'm going to create the variable size that will be equal to the size of our vector. And in the for loop, I will create our tracking variable I equal to 0. And we are going to swap our elements while I is smaller than size divided by 2. And I'm going to increase I by 1 in each iteration. And in my for loop, because I can once again create this temporary variable and store si in my temporary variable, then assign s size minus I minus 1 to my I variable and vice versa. Let's submit the solution to check that it's working. You can see that it beats 99% of the runtime for users using C++, but actually instead of writing this piece of the code, I can use the built-in algorithm of C++. C++ has function called swap that will actually do the same. And I want to swap si and as size minus 1 minus I. Okay, now you can see that our code looks much cleaner. And believe me, this swap function will do the same. So let's submit our code again. And I made a typo. We need to have comma between our elements, not semicolon. Let's submit it again. And you can see once again, result is quite good. Our runtime beats 52% of the users with C++. Once again, this number is very approximate. If I submit my solution again, I can get very different runtime. Oh, you can see that now it's 80%. Okay, so if there are built-in function for swapping elements, maybe actually there is a built-in function for swapping string. And actually you can see that here in our task, we have as input variable vector, and in C++ in the library algorithm there is the built-in function, the function of the library algorithm that allows us to swap vector. I'm not sure if the library algorithm is included here, if LeetCode will give us opportunity to use it, but let's try, maybe we are lucky. I need just to write function reverse. And in the round brackets of the function reverse, I need to specify which part of our vector I want to reverse. So I want to reverse the entire vector. So I'm going to write here the pointer of the beginning of our vector and of the end of our vector. Okay, don't forget semicolon. And you can see how clean and easy our solution looks now. But once again, if you want to use this solution in your local compiler, don't forget to include algorithm library. Let's submit this solution. And you can see now we actually have even better result. Our solution beats 80% of users with C++ regarding runtime and 60% of users with C++ regarding memory. Okay, finally I'm going to write all the same program using Python, and in Python solution I want to use for loop. I think it will be the most suitable and clean solution for this language. So once again I need to create a variable that will store the length of my string, and the code for my for loop for n in range L divided by 2. And once again I can write the same code I wrote for all other languages. I can create temporary variable and store in the temporary variable the first element of our range. Then I'm going to assign to the first element of my range the last one, L minus 1 minus n, and vice versa. L minus 1 minus n is equal to Sn. Let's check that this solution is working. Let's submit it. Okay, oops, I forgot that I actually need to use temporary variables, sorry. So let's try to do it again. And you can see that now everything's okay, our solution is accepted. But actually in Python, instead of the implementing temporary variable, I can swap two variables in a different way. So just write the variables you want to swap equal to L minus 1 minus n Sn. So in this way we swap variables in Python. Now Sn should be equal to the last element and last element to the first element. Let's once again submit our solution, and you can see that now it looks much better. We have better results for runtime and memory. Or alternatively we can use just reverse function of Python, write s.reverse, and let's check the result for this code. And you can see that now regarding runtime we beat 90% of users with Python writing this one line solution. So I hope this lesson was really helpful and useful for you. Once again, if you use some different language, I will be happy if you write your solution in the comments, and I'll see you in the next lesson.